Hi, I'm Donna Wilder.
And I'm Janie Donaldson. Welcome to Quilt Central. Today, our feature longarm teacher shows how to combine quality and speed. By learning a few simple shapes with minimal marking, you can complete a quilt in almost no time.
It's always fun to have a small, quick project, and our sewing machine expert shows us friendship scroll wall hangings.
You'll all want to try fabric stenciling after you see this show, so stay tuned.
Quilt Central is made possible in part by Janome America, makers of sewing machines and sergers. Janome, because you simply love to sew.
APQS offers the Millennium and a full line of hand-guided quilting machines made in America's heartland for America's artisans.
Sylvia Design Sewing Furniture, designed just for you. JT Trading Corporation, stick with us. Electric Quilt Company. Paducah McCracken County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Additional funding was provided by these companies that care about quilting. Welcome to Quilt Central, celebrating quilting in everyday living, with your hosts, Jane Donaldson and Donna Wilder.
One technique I've always been interested in learning is stenciling on fabric, and my guest today is going to show us how to do that. Joining me is Lynn Damelio. Welcome, Lynn.
Hi, Donna. It's nice to be here. I have a wonderful project to show you today. We're going to take our stencils and we're going to create our own fabrics using regular acrylic paint mixed with textile medium to become a permanent fabric paint, and we're going to create quilt blocks to make a wall hanging.
This is absolutely lovely,
Oh,
and it
thank
looked
you.
like it was fabric, and you created each one of those pieces.
Yes, instead of the colors available in the fabric stores that dictate what colors you have to use for your quilts, you can, with our paint choices, you can use any color you want and create any kind of pattern you'd like.
That's great. Well, let's see how you get started.
Okay, we're going to start by showing you how to create a one color.
Okay.
So what I have here is a stencil, and they come several stencils, as you can see, on this stencil sheet. And I'm going to isolate this one here, and I'm going to scatter it all over my square of fabric. And so I've mixed textile medium with my acrylic paint. It's a 2-to-1 mixture. The instructions are on the textile medium, and it becomes a permanent fabric paint.
Okay.
And so once it dries, you would heat set it, and you can wash it after 7 days without a problem. So what I'm going to do is use a cosmetic sponge, which is, I find, really easy to use when I stencil. I have a little more control. I have a little more control over the sponge, but the brush works just as well. So I'm tapping off a lot of the paint. I don't want a lot of paint on the sponge. A drier sponge is a better stencil. Now, before I begin, though, I want to make sure that this stencil lays really flat on my fabric. So I'm going to spray it with a little spritz of adhesive, stencil adhesive, and it's going to make it stick to the fabric without being gummy.
Oh, that's a nice idea, so that it doesn't shift as you're stenciling.
So I've done that. I'm going to let it dry for about 30 seconds here, and then I'm just going to place it where I want to start the first one. And this is a scatter pattern, so it doesn't really matter where I put this. And you can see how it just sticks really nice right there. So I'll pick up the paint, and I'll tap it off onto a paper towel or onto the paper plate, and I'm just going to start dabbing it on. I'm going to start with less because you can always add more.
And I noticed some of yours seem to have more coverage on them than sometime when I've seen stenciling where it kind of shades from light to dark.
Yes, you can shade this. You can use the paint as lightly as you'd like, and I can go in here and shade this. As a matter of fact, I'll put a little bit of a darker green highlight on this just to give it a little bit of darkness at the top here.
I think once you try it, it's always those first couple of
It's not intimidating at all. You just have to go ahead and do it. Practice on a piece of scrap fabric. I mean, we all have scraps laying around the house or on paper. And so
can't wait to see how this looks.
Then you just lift it off, a little sticky, and you've got a nice imprint. So then I would use the stencil again, and I'd lay it right here, and there's enough stickum on there still, and I would go ahead and do it again until my whole piece of fabric was covered. You can go as quickly with this, or you can take as much time as you'd like, but it goes rather fast.
Good. Well, let's take that one off so we can get to the multicolored ones.
Oh,
That's
sure.
what I want to see. Great. Well, now that was a single stencil, and you can do multicolored.
Yes, we're going to show you how to do the rose, which is in several different colors here. So I'm going to take a piece of the yellow fabric. I'm going to take the rose stencil. As you can see, the rose and the green leaves are very close together. So I went ahead and cheated a little bit and covered the green with Post-it notes so that I can only stencil the rose onto the fabric. So with the greenery covered, I'm going to spritz this a little bit. Lay it on your fabric, and then go ahead and stencil. This way I'm not going to get any of the red where the green leaves should be.
Okay.
And I'm going to use the driest sponge I can, and I'm just going to start stenciling that flower on there.
And while you're doing that, let me show them. You did a wonderful pillow that you created to coordinate with the little quilt wall hanging that you did, and the plate that goes on the wall plaque is just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm always thinking of accessories that will go with the particular look that you're trying to create.
Now we're going to have to speed that one up a bit so that we can get
Well,
the color.
actually, I have one finished here.
Oh,
so
good.
when you lift off the stencil, you would have that. So then I've peeled off the Post-it notes,
And then you do your
and
green.
I reverse that, and I would do the green.
Great.
And just continue on and scatter the roses around, and then take a piece of that other stencil and mix and match, and that's how I got this
you
little
did-
sprig.
Great. Well, they all go together so well. And I want to thank you, Lynn, for bringing this stenciling for us here.
It's been fun. Thank you.
I'm real excited to introduce this next guest. This is Pam Clarke. She's a published celebrity long-arm teacher, and she has a method of quilting that's called Design with Lines. And if you can use this method, it'll be a lot speedier. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Janie.
What have you brought us today?
Well, I brought you a technique I'm going to share with you that I've been using for several years. And what it is, it's going to help you speed up your quilting. I mean, it is really going to save you time.
That's good. Are these quilts quilted with that method?
Yes, they are. Especially when you have like an old quilt like this, an older quilt like this, what happens is the piecing and the set and things are not real square. And so a lot of times when I use a pre-cut stencil, I can never get the stencil to fit it. So I had to use a stencil, like I have a stencil that has 8 lines on it, that I use it, and I use it as reference lines on here, and that's going to give me that guide, and it will fit all my blocks.
Well, I have heard that you have quilted over 7,000 quilts, so I can't imagine how you could possibly have enough stencils to fit all those. So I imagine that this method is developed out of that, hasn't it?
It has. It is amazing what you can do with it. And the thing of it is you only need to know like maybe 5 simple shapes.
Oh, well.
Really simple shapes.
You have.
Okay, great.
Pink is my favorite color.
It's pretty, isn't it?
This is a satin one.
Yes.
And you used this method in here?
I did. I have a curvy square stencil that is just very simple. It's just like a continuous curve. And what it is, it's reference lines. So that it'll give you, so that it doesn't matter what size it is, we're going to build around it.
So you actually use the stencil to get some base lines, and then you freehand this.
I freehand everything.
Oh, that is beautiful. Look at this piece. That is beautiful.
Thank
All
you.
block by block, it's like a sampler.
And it doesn't matter what size your block is, because no matter what size, the stencil will square up your, find the corners. So it can be like a 6-inch block, it can be an 18-inch block, it can be a 3-inch block.
Still the
All right,
same method?
Same method, yes. And you'll find your center right away.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And this one? Is this a baby quilt?
This is a little baby quilt. It's just a pre-stencil quilt. Nice to practice on when you're first starting. But I'm going to show you how to do this design today.
Good.
Right.
I never would dream that this particular block was not stenciled on all the way that that's freehanded, because it's the same every one. It really looks good.
Thank you.
And this is similar to the sampler we'll be doing today?
Yes, it is. I will be showing you how to do all of these blocks continuous without stopping. And that's how I learn how to do my technique. I try to go from this end, from the left end of my machine, all the way to the other end of the machine without stopping and coming back and only breaking my thread like one time. So it's really a fast method. It has saved me hours of time. I sometimes do 3 quilts in a day.
Oh my goodness. And you said you only need to know a couple of shapes?
Yes, you need to know like a clamshell, a loop.
Like this?
Yes, the clamshell, a loop.
Which would
Be like the E's and the L's, a heart shape, just very simple shapes. Really, just those 3 is what I'm going to share with you today.
Okay, well, I have to see it
All right.
to get a good idea of how
I would love to
do
show you.
this.
All right. First off, this is a stencil that I use, and this is my centering stencil or my reference stencil, and I lay it down, and I just lay it on the block, and I find my corners, just like that. So it doesn't matter if you have a 3-inch, like I'll show you in this a little bit, but I can lay it up here and find my center right away. Now, I'm going to show you how to draw it up because it's very basic, it's very simple. And what you need to do is you're going to break down your block without any problems. And I'm going to take this Sharpie, and I'm going to start in the middle. Now, when I start...
one of these shapes you've been telling me
Yes,
about.
I'm going to use the clamshell.
Okay.
I'm going to use a clamshell, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to come all the way up to the corner. And I don't ditch quilt my quilts, and that's how I save a lot of time, but I have to make sure that all my design fills up the block, okay? Because it's really important that it fills it up. Then I'm going to come back down to that shape. Now this V part right here is the bottom of a heart shape. So if you take that and go all the way up, make a heart shape all the way up to there and back down, it's going to be all the way around. I'm doing that same clamshell, a heart, all the way around here.
Just mix 2 different patterns.
It's just 2 shapes. That's all you need to know on this one. And it doesn't take a lot of practice.
And that's continuous
It's
line?
continuous.
Kind of Celtic?
Yeah,
All of this?
but it's very traditional at the same time.
It sure is.
Now you can take this design and I can put it into a straight line, into a border or sashing.
Okay.
And so I have a stencil like this one right here, and I mark it very lightly with the chalk.
So you hit it this way.
Yes, and I'm going to chalk those lines, and those are going to be my references, and I'm going to do that same shape, except I'm going to put it into a border. So we'll always fit my border. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to do that arcing heart shape, keep it inside that shape, all the way up, around, up, round. So now I know that my design is going to fit my border.
So
Isn't that neat? It's just really easy. I mean, it will give you all the freedom of not being restricted to a pre-cut stencil. I love pre-cut stencils, but they don't always fit my quilt squares.
And they're hard to find,
Yeah.
too.
And then this wider stencil, this is a 2-inch one, and what you can do with this is you can do in between like an E and an L, which is a very simple border for beginner quilters. And what's really easy to know is that you put an E in the empty, L on the line, E for empty, L for line, and it's going to keep it all the way even across the
Even
border.
a beginner could do that.
All beginner quilters, any quilter can do this. And it doesn't take a lot of practice. It's very simple, very easy to do.
Yes, I'd kind of like to see you do that.
Oh, okay, I'd love to show you. All right, I use a chalk pad. I like to use blue because it shows up really well. And then I take my stencil. Some stencils have a rough side and a smooth side. And if you happen to have a stencil that has a rough side up, I like to use that up because then the chalk was going to come off. Then I can take it and I lay it down very lightly.
Because usually we put the rough side down.
Right, so it doesn't slide on you. But with this method, you don't have to chalk it real heavy.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so you don't have a lot of marks. All right, so then you're going to take it and you'll dust it across your block, and you can see this. Very easy, very time-saving. All right, and would you like me to stitch it?
I sure would.
All right, I drew it over here in this green block, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to draw it, I'm going to freehand it over here for you.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That would be good.
All right, I'll bring my thread up. All right, here we go. You're going to do the clamshell all the way down, the heart shape all the way up to the top, back down into this one, clamshell, clamshell, apart. All the way up. You want to make sure. The one thing you have to really remember about this technique though first, when you first start, you really want to match your thread color as close as possible to your background because you want to stop one stitch from the center so that you won't have a buildup of threads. All the way down and back up.
I think a quilt looks richer when you use the same color thread on the fabric too.
Oh, I agree. I really do. With all the decorative threads we have out, that's really fun to do, but I'm a real traditional quilter, and I'm a speed quilter too.
That's
so,
good.
yeah.
Time for that.
All right.
Okay, well maybe we could just roll down a
Okay,
little.
well,
Or do you want to do another one here?
I'm going to show you one more because what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how to do this continuous all the way across in one row without stopping.
Okay.
But this one here is like my comfort pattern.
Okay.
I can do this one, everyone has their own comfort pattern.
your sleep,
Yes,
right?
some people like to stipple, but I really like this design. And what you need to know is I have put some little reference dots right in here, these little blue dots. And that is only to remind me that I need to make sure I go around those. All right, and all you need to do when you first start learning this technique is to make sure that when you do this, you only have to do about 5 times, and you won't ever have to put those dots down again. And another trick with this one, you need to go clockwise. Clockwise is really good because most of our brains want to go in that direction. So I'm going to show you how easy this one is, and then we'll roll the quilt in a minute, and I'll show you how to do it all in a row. I'm going to loop around the dot, back up, around, there. And well, I'm just creating like an E or an L or a loop, whatever it is that you want. But you want to make sure you get it up into that corner, onto that straight line that I chalked, all the way around to there, back up, and then lock your stitches.
Perfect.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that pretty?
Looks
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what size your quilt block is. It's always going to fit.
Okay. Well, let's roll down
So
to
let's
that
roll
little bit.
this.
A little assistance here.
All right.
How far down do you need to be?
How
About there?
about, like that should be just fine. All right, here we go.
Let's
I'm gonna
see how
speed this
far
up.
you can go without stopping.
Okay. There we go. So I'm going to come around to the top, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be working halfway. I'm going to come around to here. Uh-oh, yes. Oops, I forgot there, so I can come in here and get it.
Second chance.
Yep, you got a couple chances. As long as you have, it has to connect to the next block.
That's going to turn out. That whole row is going to fall together just beautifully.
Isn't that fast?
It sure
is like...
I'm going to try that method.
Oh, you need to. You will not believe this will change the way you will do your machine quilting.
I'll have to get into one of your classes.
Yes.
And give it a try.
Then I can give you a bad time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what do you think, huh? Is that fast?
Absolutely beautiful.
All right, I'm just about done. And if you had 2 rows, you could just continue on down to the bottom. Or if I had another row up here, I could continue up there.
Thank you so much for showing us your methods.
You're welcome.
If you like cross stitch, I think you're going to enjoy what my guest has to share today. She's going to show us how to do cross stitch on the sewing machine. Joining me is our sewing expert, Maddie Bushman. Welcome, Maddie.
Oh, thank you so much. What a delight it is to be here today. I couldn't be happier.
Well, this is absolutely incredible what you're able to do with and make it look like cross stitch. The project you're showing us is a wall hanging?
Yes, actually I call it a friendship scroll. It's a lovely gift idea for your best friend.
And you said that this is all of that embroidery work, which looks exactly like cross stitch, is done by machine.
Exactly. We have a cross stitch card, embroidery design card, that we're going to put in to our card reader.
Okay.
So that we can select a design that we like. So we're going to go ahead and place that in. And then we're going to select embroidery mode.
Okay.
Then we have to select our card reader. And I'm going to select design number 1, which is the design in the bottom panel. Okay? Now it's reading the card. Now, what I want to do is I want to put a new twist on it. So I'm going to go ahead and take that design into the edit screen. Okay? And what I want to do is, because I'm going to be doing something a little different, which is using twin needles to cross stitch. Now, I don't recommend that you use twin needles for all designs, but for the cross stitch, it is stupendous.
Good.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the color edit, and I want to change everything to just use 2 colors. So you'll select the second one, which is meadow green, and just change it to meadow. So now they're both the same. I want to change the dark green also to the meadow green, to meadow. There's meadow green. It's hard to, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take the peony purple, and I'm going to change that to the floral pink. Okay, and we'll page forward, and we're going to make the last one the same thing. So actually what we want to do is we want everything to be in 2 colors, just the greens and the pinks.
All right.
And that way we have the minimal number of changes. Okay? So then we're going to, we've already stabilized our fabric and hooped it, and we're going to go ahead and place it on here. The last thing that we're going to do is, before we finish, we're going to go ahead and enlarge it to 120% to allow for the extra stitches with the twin needles. We're going to say OK.
And it's going to start.
Exactly.
This is amazing that you can do so much of this with the computer inside the machine.
I know, isn't it wonderful? And
There we go.
we just wanted to make sure that we were starting in the correct position. And there it goes.
And that's, you can really see it doing all the cross stitch.
Exactly, just as if you did it by hand. Did you get an opportunity to feel this?
Let me feel. Oh my goodness, it feels like cross stitch.
Right, the density of the stitches by using the twin needles just adds such a new texture to it that it's beautiful.
Oh, it really is pretty. And then you continue doing that, and then you'll add your next color. And how long will it take to do that particular design?
Well, the machine tells you it's going to take 14 minutes. It might take a little bit less time, but it'll take about 14 minutes, and the finished design will be 2.7 inches by 3.6 inches.
Now, you selected 3 different ones, and they were all from the same card that you used, so you've got a lot of different choices to make on it.
Several choices, yes.
And it's specifically designed to do the cross stitch.
That's what, it's a cross-stitch border design card, yes.
Thank you, Maddie. I think this is very exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Wasn't that a great show today?
Yes, and we want to thank you all for watching Quilt Central.
Join us next time when long-arm teacher Kathy Olson shows us feathers, feathers, and more feathers. She makes them work on any block, on any quilt.
Make a quilt to showcase your vacation memories with Jennifer O'Brien's clever ideas.
We'll also show a cute tote bag based on a familiar block you'll all recognize, the card trick.
Plus, a work from a local artist and more next time on Quilt Central.
Quilt around the clock. Visit the Quilt Central website at www.quiltcentraltv.com for more information on this program. Quilt Central is made possible in part by Janome America, makers of sewing machines and sergers. Janome, because you simply love to sew.
APQS offers the Millennium and a full line of hand-guided quilting machines made in America's heartland for America's artisans.
Sylvia Design Sewing Furniture, designed just for you. JT Trading Corporation, stick with us. Electric Quilt Company. Paducah McCracken County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Additional funding was provided by these companies that care about quilting. Celebrate quilting in your everyday living. To purchase videotapes of this or any episode of Quilt Central, you may call toll-free at 1-866-PADUCAH.